Drinking alcohol, smoking, and drug use are harmful to health.
Emma had always been a creature of habit. Every evening at precisely 8:45 p.m., after a long day at the library, where she worked as an archivist, she would draw a hot bath or step into the shower to wash away the dust of old books and forgotten histories. Her apartment, a creaky Victorian relic on the outskirts of a sleepy New England town, had been her sanctuary for the past 5 years. It was cheap, isolated, and full of character, or so she told herself. The building dated back to the 1890s, with high ceilings, ornate moldings, and a bathroom that felt like a time capsule. The clawfoot tub sat under a frosted window, and the shower curtain, a faded floral pattern, hung from rusted rings that squeaked with every pull. It started subtly, about 6 months after she moved in. At first, Emma dismissed it as paranoia, the kind that creeps in when you're alone too much. She'd lather up her hair, eyes closed against the shampoo suds, and feel something. A shift in the air, like the steam parting for an invisible form. It wasn't a draft. The window was sealed shut, painted over decades ago. No, it was more like the pressure of eyes on her skin, a presence lingering just beyond the curtain. She'd peek out, heart quickening, but there was nothing. Just the foggy mirror, the dripping faucet, and her own reflection staring back, wide-eyed and foolish. "Get a grip," she'd mutter, toweling off and laughing it off. Maybe it was the isolation. Her last relationship had ended badly. Mark had cheated, left her with trust issues and an aversion to vulnerability. Showering was one of those intimate moments where she felt exposed, literally and figuratively. Psychological, she reasoned. But as weeks turned to months, the sensation grew insistent. One rainy October evening, as thunder rumbled outside, Emma stepped into the shower earlier than usual. The day had been exhausting. A patron at the library had argued about a rare book's provenance, and her boss had piled on extra cataloging work. She needed the heat to soothe her aching muscles. As the water cascaded over her, she closed her eyes, letting the steam envelop her. There it was again, that prickling awareness. This time, it felt closer, as if whatever it was had edged nearer to the curtain. She could almost hear breathing, faint and ragged, sinking with the patter of water. Her hand froze mid-shampoo. "Hello?" she whispered, ridiculous even to her own ears. Silence, except for the drain gurgling. She yanked the curtain aside, water splashing onto the tile floor. Empty. Just the empty bathroom, the tub's shadow stretching long in the dim light. Shaking her head, she finished quickly and wrapped herself in a robe. But as she wiped the mirror, her fingers trembled. For a split second, she swore she saw movement in the reflection, not hers, but a blur behind her. She spun around. Nothing. That night, sleep evaded her. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the feeling. It wasn't fear. Not yet. More like unease, a nagging doubt that chipped away at her rationality. The next morning, she mentioned it casually to her co-worker, Sarah, over coffee in the break room. "Sounds like a ghost?" Sarah teased, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Sarah was the type who devoured true crime podcasts and urban legends. "Old houses like yours? Probably haunted. Ever look up the history?" Emma rolled her eyes. "It's not a ghost. Probably just my imagination, or mold making me hallucinate." But Sarah's words lingered. That afternoon, during a slow shift, Emma dove into the library's archives. Her apartment building, she discovered, had a sordid past. Built in 1892 as a boarding house for mill workers, it had seen its share of tragedies. A fire in 1910 killed 3 residents. a murder-suicide in the 1940s. A jealous husband drowned his wife in the bathtub after catching her with a lover. Emma's stomach twisted as she read the yellowed newspaper clipping. Woman found submerged. Husband hanged in attic. The wife's name was Lillian, described as a beauty with long dark hair, much like Emma's. Coincidence, she told herself. Old buildings have histories. But that evening, as she showered, the presence felt heavier, almost tangible. She imagined Lillian's ghost, watching, envious of the living. "Stop it!" she snapped aloud, rinsing off and stepping out. The mirror was fogged, and as she wiped it clear, her breath caught. There in the center was a wet handprint. Not hers. It was larger, with slender fingers, palms splayed as if pressing from the other side. Emma backed away, heart pounding. She touched the glass. It was cold, the print smearing under her fingers. Condensation? But no, her hands were dry now. She grabbed her phone and snapped a photo, the flash illuminating the eerie outline. It looked deliberate, like a message. That night, she barely slept, the image haunting her dreams. In them, she was in the shower, curtain drawn, and a hand reached through the fabric, cold and clammy on her shoulder. She woke sweating, the sheets tangled. The next day, she showed the photo to Sarah. "Whoa, that's creepy," Sarah said, zooming in. "Looks real. Maybe you should sage the place or something." Emma laughed nervously. "Or call a plumber? Leaky pipes causing hallucinations?" But doubt gnawed at her. She started researching online, forums about hauntings, paranormal experiences. Many described similar sensations: the watched feeling in bathrooms, handprints on mirrors. One thread stood out: entities that lurk in liminal spaces, drawn to vulnerability. Showers, it said, were portals of sorts, where the veil thinned amid steam and water. Ridiculous pseudoscience, but it fueled her unease. She began avoiding showers at night, opting for quick morning rinses with the curtain half open. Still, the presence persisted. Now it came with sounds, soft splashes, like feet shifting in puddles, or whispers too faint to decipher. Once, she thought she heard a woman's voice, mine. Weeks passed, the incidents escalating. Emma installed a camera in the bathroom, angled at the shower. Reviewing footage showed nothing. No orbs, no shadows. Just her own form, blurred by steam. But one clip chilled her. At the 2:15 mark, the curtain billowed inward, as if pushed by an unseen hand. No wind, no explanation. She confided in her neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove, an elderly widow who'd lived in the building for decades. "Oh dear," Mrs. Hargrove said over tea, her hands shaking slightly. "I've heard stories. The woman in 3B, Lillian, they say she never left. Jealous spirit clings to the living." Emma's skin prickled. "You believe that?" Mrs. Hargrove leaned in. "I felt it too, years ago. In the shower, like someone's there. I stopped using that bathroom altogether." Emma felt something wrong in her apartment. One night, while taking a bath, she saw a pale face under the water. Terrified, she ran out and found a handprint on the mirror with the words, "Stay away." Research revealed the building's dark past. A woman named Lillian had drowned herself, and her husband later hanged himself. Rumors said Lillian's spirit targeted women who resembled her, like Emma. Strange events grew worse. The shower curtain moved by itself, cold breaths touched her neck, and more handprints appeared. Nightmares of blood-filled water haunted her. Desperate, Emma used a Ouija board. It spelled Lillian, then him, before the shower turned on by itself. A psychic told her the apartment was a nexus pulling in spirits, not just Lillian, but other entities feeding on fear. To stop it, Emma had to face it. That night in the shower, a figure pressed against the curtain. A deep male voice whispered, "Not Lillian." In the mirror, she saw the husband's ghost, a noose mark on his neck. Invisible hands grabbed her ankles, dragging her down until everything went dark. Emma woke in the hospital. The doctors insisted she simply fell, but she knew the truth. Prescribed pills. Discharged, she returned home warily. The bathroom seemed normal. No handprints. She showered tentatively. Nothing. Relief washed over her. It was over. But that night, as she brushed her teeth, the mirror fogged from her breath. A handprint appeared, not on the glass, but on her reflection's shoulder. Inside the mirror, a figure stood behind her, reflected self, smiling. Emma touched her shoulder. Wet. The presence wasn't behind the curtain anymore. It was inside her. Emma tried to ignore it at first, chalking it up to the concussion. But the changes were subtle, insidious. Her reflection lagged sometimes, blinking a second after she did. In photos, her eyes seemed darker, shadowed. And the dreams, now they were vivid, from the husband's perspective. His name was Elias, she learned. He'd loved Lillian fiercely, but jealousy consumed him. In the dreams, he watched her bathe, hidden behind the curtain, seething as she hummed tunes from her lover. "No," Emma whispered, waking. It wasn't her memory. She started feeling urges, strange compulsions to linger in the shower, to press her hand against the mirror as if reaching through. Once, she blacked out and came to with the water running cold. Her skin pruned, hours lost. Sarah noticed. "You're spacing out a lot, and your voice, it sounds deeper sometimes." Emma laughed it off, but fear gnawed. She researched possession, exorcisms. Forums warned, spirits like Elias latch on, erode the host. One evening, alone, she confronted the mirror. "Elias, leave me." Her reflection smirked, lips moving out of sync. "Why? This body is warm, alive." Emma smashed the mirror, shards flying. Blood dripped from her knuckles, but in each fragment, his face leered. She fled the apartment, crashing at Sarah's, but it followed. In Sarah's shower, the presence returned, stronger. A handprint on the window, fog writing, "Mine." Sarah found Emma curled on the floor, muttering, "We need help." They called a priest. Father Moreno arrived, skeptical, but performed the rite. As he chanted, Emma convulsed, voice not her own. She invited me, watched, vulnerable. The exorcism failed. Elias was rooted deep, feeding on her isolation. Emma's life unraveled. She quit her job, isolated further. Showers became rituals, compulsory, where Elias whispered secrets, how he'd drowned Lillian, not in rage, but to keep her forever. "Now you," he'd say. One night, as rain lashed the windows, Emma filled the tub. The water beckoned. She stepped in, submerging. Bubbles rose as hands, her own but not, held her under. Sarah found her the next day, floating, eyes open, a serene smile. The mirror bore a single handprint, dripping, but in the reflection, two figures stood, Emma and Elias, entwined. The apartment sat empty after that. New tenants reported the presence, but none stayed long. Behind the curtain, it waited, patient, for the next vulnerable soul. And in the town library, an archivist's file lay open. Emma's photo, eyes shadowed as if someone else looked out.